Oh, hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on which part of this oft beleaguered country that we're in. I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. You're watching Rebel Roundup, Rebel News' daily news and opinion show, and I'm joined today by my Thursday co-host from Coburg, Ontario, Tamara Ugolini. Tamara, how's it going?
Well, it certainly feels a bit like a manic Monday today on this Thursday. So it's been a busy morning with an update from the Allison inquiry. I had a 30-minute hit on the Brad Smith show, No BS with Brad Smith on AM 640 earlier this morning. And now we're into the live stream. I got a write up in between, and then I'm hoping to review my video before it goes out this evening. So it's just been a bit of a pile up this morning. But how are you doing, Sheila?
Have you tried getting up earlier, like
Yeah.
4:45 a.m.? That's how I manage my day before it gets out of control. Yeah, you know, I think a lot of journalists wake up in the morning and they say, I wonder what I'm going to write about today, or I wonder what I'm going to cover today. And over here at Rebel News, we wake up and say, how in God's name am I going to get to all of this work?
Yeah.
It's always something. And I'd rather be busy than not, though. So I think that's how
Exactly.
the best way to handle things. I'll tell everybody what we're doing. And maybe Olivia, I know it's not necessarily on the schedule, but I think we should get to some of those Allison inquiry clips from the press conference this morning, especially since we have Tamara Ugolini with us here today. If you're watching us on Rumble, that's an excellent free speech platform. If you want to support the work that we're doing here at Rebel News out of the goodness of your heart and not compulsion of the government, you can leave a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat over there. And if you leave a Rumble rant over the $5 US cutoff, we're reading it on air. If it's under that, we'll do our very best, time permitting. If you're watching us on YouTube, same rules apply there. Paid chat is called the super chat. And if you missed the live version of the show, but you were moved by the spirit to help the little network that could, you can leave a paid comment called a super thanks. And we invite you to do this because, of course, I say it every day, we'll never take a penny from the government to do the work that we do around here. How could we call ourselves independent journalists if we were not independent of the government? So I think that's it. Let's get into the show. First thing, a report from the Toronto Sun based on a Fraser Institute analysis, which shows something that is, I think, self-evident to every Canadian, that Canadians spent more on taxes than basic necessities in 2025. Not shocking. This comes from a Fraser Institute analysis that shows that our tax burden is actually higher than what we spend on housing or food. Your taxes are the single largest household expense. So a family with an average income of 121,000 spent nearly 51,000, or almost 42% of its income on taxes in 2025, compared to 43%, or sorry, 43,000 on shelter. And sorry, what am I doing? Compared to 2025, shelter was 27,000, food 13,000, and clothing roughly 3,000. And it's only getting worse. The government is your single largest bill every year, more so than your house, feeding your children, or clothing your children. It's egregious.
And the craziest part is I reported on this in 2023, and I was just trying to dig that report back up because similar numbers from the Fraser Institute. I remember Prime Minister Mark Carney campaigned on being this economic saving grace. He was supposed
Yeah.
to save all of us from the devastation of tariffs with the United States and Trump man bad derangement syndrome. And he's failed on any of those mandates to actually achieve any of his promises with his elbows up rhetoric. But embedded in that article, there it is, the Fraser Institute in 2023 put together this fun little 30-second graphic. And I think it really really visually drives the point home of just how much the tax burden has changed for Canadians over the last several decades. So maybe we can just do a
Yeah.
quick run through. I mean, look at this. It's crazy.
Single Canadians spent In just 30 seconds, you'll know how the Canadian tax burden has changed over the past
I'm sad
62
already.
years. In 1961, the average Canadian family, including couples, couples with kids, and single Canadians, spent 34% of its income on taxes and 57% on housing, food, and clothing combined. Fast forward 62 years, the average family paid 43% of its income on taxes and 36% on the basic necessities of life in 2023.
Almost a clean flipping of
Yeah.
what my parents would have enjoyed the fruits of in 1961.
Yeah, it's crazy. And how do people save for a rainy day? And ask yourself, given the increased tax burden that Canadians have, do you feel like you're getting a good return on that? Do you feel like it's easier to use government services? You feel like the roads are better, healthcare is better, the social safety net is better? Do you feel like there are fewer homeless people on the street? Um, the answer is obviously no. Like things in this country are on a steep decline, and yet you pay more for it. And if this were the case in any other industry, there would be a market correction. Let's say cars cost more, but they were crappier. You would at least be able to stop buying cars until they fix themselves, until the industry decided to correct itself. That's not the case with government. They just keep getting worse and worse. They keep adding more useless people to the government payroll, and your services continue to decline until such point as the government says, oh, you need a knee surgery? Have you tried MAID instead?
Right. Or in the case of Michelle Warden, a vaccine injured Canadian who we heard from during the last update of the Allison inquiry, had to spend her life savings, sell off her business,
Yeah.
and go to the United States to receive timely, accurate health care.
Yeah.
Our healthcare system here in Canada, hailed as, first class, world class system. Well, you're waiting at least 18 months to get into any sort of meaningful specialist, or if you have to have a surgery, God forbid, you'll die before you get into the surgery
Yep.
itself. So yeah, as this bureaucracy has bloated, are we getting a return on this investment? And I would say unanimously across the board, more and more Canadians are saying absolutely not.
Yeah. We'll get to the Allison inquiry in a second, but just on the topic of Mark Carney being this genius financial guru, his new sovereign wealth fund, which isn't a sovereign wealth fund at all, it's a sovereign debt, because he proposes to borrow to create a sovereign wealth fund. What? It's according to the Montreal Economic Institute. Carney's Canada Strong Fund echoes the United Kingdom's National Wealth Fund. Guess who was behind that? And argues that the resemblance should be a red flag for the Canadian Prime Minister and former Bank of England governor. 2 years before selling this model to Canadians, Mark Carney recommended it to the British, who then implemented it. And that model hasn't worked in Britain so far, and it's unlikely to work in Canada. So we're just doing more of the same bad ideas that Carney had before and hoping somehow for a different result. So the words they use here. Carney announced in April the creation of Canada's first national sovereign wealth fund with an additional endowment borrowing of $25 billion over 3 years. He said at the time the fund would give private citizens an easy way to invest in major national projects, except we don't really have any of those around here, do we? While called a sovereign wealth fund, the Canada Strong Fund will use debt rather than surplus revenues, which is what we do here in Alberta with the Heritage Savings Trust Fund, and resource wealth to finance its activities. We used resource wealth here to do that. Carney was formerly a part of a green finance task force that then advised Britain's Labour government on its National Wealth Fund, a public finance institution created in 2024. The fund absorbed the former UK Infrastructure Bank. We had one of them too, created in 2021, and was given a $7.3 billion or billion pound
Wow.
or $13.7 billion in Canadian to invest in wealth generating projects. And since these are green, we know that they don't generate wealth. They generate subsidies to the owners of the projects. This includes investments in high-risk industries like green hydrogen, carbon capture, and battery gigafactories. Officials said at the time the fund would attract £3 of private money for every £1 from the public purse. The study reports that the National Wealth Fund's losses have nearly doubled. So not only is it not generating any money, it's actually losing money. And then they had to rebrand it in 2024, reaching so the losses are at $152.2 million, or sorry, million pounds, or nearly 300 million Canadian dollars last year. A cumulative return of minus
No.
24.9% in 2 years of operation. I can't. This is why. The fund is now called the National Waste Fund in some corners of the British press, and has been cited as a factor in the downfall of former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves. Reeves left the Labour government's top economic post last month following the installation of the new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham. So anyways, it's like looking into a crystal ball of our future, isn't it?
Yeah, the net zero zealots are on full display with this one. And the National Wealth Fund, since rebranding, has only continued to lose money. So the rebranding hopefulness, I guess, has obviously not proven to be successful. And the only people benefiting are the likes of, the Brookfield adjacent green slush fund profiteers.
Carney types. Everybody else loses. Imagine saying to the government, hey, give us a whole bunch of money, invest in our green projects, and we'll make sure that you have 3-to-1 returns on your money. And Mark Carney saying, yeah, that's a good idea. Instead of just somebody saying, that feels like a Ponzi scheme. That feels like crazy. Nobody in the real world would have ever believed this to be true, but this is government, and that's not the real world. Because why? Taxpayers backstop everything, so nobody actually loses any money except the taxpayer.
Yeah, there's nothing, the risk is all put back onto people who are forced into funding these rackets through endless and increasing taxation. And then you get a cumulative return of minus 25%.
Yeah.
During 2 years.
Tamara, if I said to you, give me $100 and I'm going to invest it in something that doesn't exist, and then I'm going to give you back $300, you would be like, Sheila, get out of here. But Mark Carney said, yeah, do it. And they did it. And then he's like, we're going to do it here too. God help us all.
My goodness, there are no words except, well, I guess Pierre Poilievre's filling in the gap of the lack of words, because he's showing the economic growth here on X since Carney became prime minister in just the first quarter of 2025 until now.
Look at this. We'd be better off sending our money to fake Nigerian boyfriends.
Well, we're doing it. We're sending it to Vietnam for gender
all over the place. Yeah.
Just rice.
Yes.
So we're the worst in, I mean, he's been saying it for a year plus in the House of Commons, but we're the worst in Australia, the UK, worse in the G7, the EU, and of course, obviously, compared to the US. So there's Canada, small little tiny bump, almost got back into the races and then just tanked again, first quarter of 2026.
Yeah, and it's funny because people on the left say, it's all in your head, everything's fine. Okay, thanks, elbows up, boomers. Just because you're not feeling it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. I'm glad that you've insulated yourself from this because you bought your Toronto area home in 1967 for a penny whistle and a moon pie. Now it's worth $3 million. But there's no way that young people can get ahead now. Absolutely no way. And this is so counterintuitive to everything that has allowed our species to survive these many millennia. The young are protected by the old, because they are the future. of the species. And all of a sudden, in the last 11 years, that mentality has just been completely flipped on its head. We are going against our biological prerogative to protect the young from a forbidding environment. Now we have the old creating the forbidding environment for the young. This
Yeah.
can't go on this way.
And depending on which, old demographic you speak to, my grandmother-in-law is very much aware of all of
Oh,
this, and she thinks it's just so unjust. She thinks that the government is absolutely awful. She
yeah,
was kind of one of my saving graces during the pandemic because she obviously was suffering alone and in isolation, and we visit her often. And I called her and I said, if you're not comfortable with us coming inside, just let me know and we can visit outside. And she said, absolutely not. I'll be
yeah,
having none of this. You're coming in. I'm going to hug and kiss on my great grandbabies, and I will absolutely not be keeping any sort of distance from you. I would
yeah,
never expect you guys to sacrifice for my good. I've had a whole life. I've
yeah,
lived my life. Anything at this point can come and take me out. But I would never, ever, ever put that burden on you and the younger age demographics to
right.
carry that weight. And that also rings true in today's economy that, there's a lot of elderly who said, we had good times
Yeah.
and we don't expect you to suffer to keep our good times rolling. So
Which is how it used to be, how it
yeah,
should be. And I know there are many of those people out there. Like, look, I'm from Alberta. Our boomers, we call them bloomers because they're more conservative than my generation. It's actually the young people and the older people in Alberta who, demographically speaking, are the most conservative. But that's not manifesting itself in other places of the country. And I'm making generalizations, but the statistics play out with who delivered the Mark Carney Liberals the victory that they did get.
yeah, it's the CBC watchers also, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can correlation doesn't equal causation, but there's definitely a pattern that's emerging there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. And the Liberals know it too, because their own in-house demographic information shows, the older ladies, the old bra burners of the 60s, they're very scared about climate change. They want to give back. They have a lot of time on their hands. They know that, and they play right into it.
It's actually causing a mental health catastrophe in this demographic because they are so hysterical about it and they actually think that the end is near.
Yeah,
And they live in this perpetual state of fear, whether it be the next looming virus that you have to triple mask for, or the
Donald
burning,
Trump.
yeah, Donald Trump, or the world catching on fire and all of us burning into the
Yeah,
abyss
yeah.
is sadly what they think. But
I'm going to say it every day. Visit your grandparents before Mark Carney does.
yeah,
You know, do
get to them
that.
before the CBC gets their
Hmm.
nightly news on.
Hmm.
Go play cards with them.
Yes. Just briefly on the trade issue, and then maybe we'll do some like good Ford. He's actually doing something good.
Yeah.
It's so rare that we should make note of it. Um, but Dominic LeBlanc, I guess he's figured out that this is his job, and he's supposed to meet with the U.S. trade chief as the tariff deadline nears. I think the tariff deadline is on is it the 19th? And Mark Carney's out of the country till the 17th because this is real pressing. Um, Dominic LeBlanc, so he's our Canada-US trade lead, and Janice Charette, you might remember her from the Public Order Emergency Commission. She did her job there, so now she's over there as Canada's chief negotiator. They'll sit down with U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer at the latter's Winder Building office near the White House this week sometime. I think Dominic LeBlanc spent 90 minutes last week working on this file as our economy is poised to melt down. They describe it as an hours-long meeting on Tuesday, but it was 90 minutes. So I guess 1.5 hours if we're being real technical. Um, and apparently they've been hunkered down with their officials at the Canadian Embassy.
It sounds to me like if you read between the lines, they were more so like hiding in the corner of the embassy just shaking in their boots, like what is going to happen in here? By the sounds of hunkering down. I don't know if that is kind of the framing that you'd want it to be heading into this kind of negotiation, but these negotiations should have been done a year ago. The
Two.
fact that, yeah, I mean, before the snap election, definitely, and when Carney was campaigning on being elbows up and taking a hard stance against Trump and his tariffs and going to be the saving grace for Canada, this should have been happening at that time.
Yep.
Here we are. And again, Trump, like this, I keep coming back to it. This is no surprise. Trump said he was going to do these things if, for instance, the fentanyl cross-border smuggling wasn't tightened up, if the human smuggling wasn't tightened up, if Canada didn't fix its foreign interference problem.
Supply management.
All things that he was very clear about during his election campaign. And now that he's following through on it, people seem to forget that we could have gotten ahead of this 2 years ago.
This was a problem when Justin Trudeau was the prime minister. Remember Justin Trudeau's like stupid speech where everyone, said that, oh, this is his most important speech ever, when Trump was like, here's your tariffs, Canada. And Trudeau did that big speech. It was an issue then. What tangibly is different now? It's worse, actually. And the tariffs are about to be a lot more punitive. So what have these Carney Liberals done this entire time? I think we could be approaching 2 hours worth of meetings as the trade deadline looms. Like 2 hours.
That's nothing.
To save the Canadian economy.
And they're hunkering down.
Hunker down.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
More like cowering in your boots.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so on that topic, there's a border whistleblower. So Canada has attempted to take strides to, in some ways, potentially on paper, fix the porous border problem and the immigration influx that we have, not properly vetting people and letting fraud, criminality, public health threats, those sorts of things proliferate into the country. This comes from Sam Cooper at the Bureau, where a border whistleblower warned his warnings were unexamined because Canada never activated a watchdog that was approved by Parliament. So, as I mentioned, this oversight agency exists only on paper, and there's no operational authority. And so this report comes from an Ottawa attorney that has concluded that Luc Sabourin, he's a Canadian border intelligence whistleblower. He says he was threatened at his Gatineau home by a Sinaloa cartel-linked gangster and later pressured out of his career after refusing an order to destroy roughly 1,000 foreign passports. He's claiming that he faced a pattern of workplace conflict and retaliation. And then his case remains unsolved. And for the very reason that this independent oversight body created by Parliament in 2024, so 2 years ago, to investigate exactly these kinds of cases and allegations has not yet been brought into force. So it just doesn't exist in any meaningful way other than, yep, we're going to do it, check mark on some, parliamentary paperwork.
Yeah, so this is quite something. So an Ottawa lawyer was commissioned on behalf of Sabourin after he was threatened by the Sinaloa cartel on the recommendation of Pamela Forward, who's the president of the Whistleblowing Canada Research Society. After reviewing several hundred pages of documentation, access to information extracts, internal agency records, union correspondence, medical files, and photographs relating to what the report describes as alleged improper handling of foreign passports, Duty, that's the lawyer, concludes that Sabourin consistently attempted to report concerns through internal and external channels, and that no mechanism exists in Canada capable of independently reviewing what he reported. He said no independent investigation reports were found, suggesting that CBSA did not conduct or did not disclose any comprehensive review of the allegation. So he was coming to them with what he knew and it was just going nowhere because there's not even a mechanism to deal with this stuff.
Yeah, and this border agency, as Sam Cooper points out, has been warned repeatedly, and he has reported repeatedly that Canada's public safety minister, has received these warnings since at least 2019 that there is growing evidence of transnational criminal organizations looking to exploit Canada's systems, our processes, and obviously also our personnel. So this is a 6-7 year ongoing problem. And there's just no political will to fix it, I guess.
I just put it in the chat because now we just heard a bad story of the CBSA. Again, Alberta remains top tier, even on immigration issues, because we have a whole slate of immigration related questions also accompanying the October 19th referendum. In Calgary, and to some extent in Edmonton, there are temporary foreign students who are out there protesting because their student permits are expired and or expiring. And so you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And Danielle Smith said the other day, look, if you come here on a temporary student permit when you are done studying, arrivederci, allow me to help you pack. But they're out there protesting. So you know what this is so funny. Thanks for putting yourself all in one place. It makes it real easy for the officials to come give you notices to appear. So that's what was happening yesterday in Calgary. CBSA officers went to one of these protests and were checking attendees' immigration documents, and some were even given immigration notices to appear for hearings.
One way to do it.
We're different here. You know, when you put yourself all in one place like that, because your immigration status is expired and or expiring, makes it real easy for the CBSA to come get you.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually, I mean, you want to talk about saving on resources. Yeah,
Great.
might
Thank
as
you.
well.
Thank you for that. So anyways, that's what we're doing here in Alberta. So it can be done. It can be done.
And also, what a slap in the face to people who are out there protesting, thinking that they're doing something that's, just and going to give them positive coverage, and then they're slapped with a bunch of immigration infractions at the same time. I mean, talk about also quelling any future protests from taking place.
There's a lot of birds getting stoned at once, as they say on Trailer Park Boys.
That's right. So for every failure of the CBSA and Canadian government, we have a few positives coming out of Alberta.
Yes. Yeah. We're just different here. And
it makes total sense. I love that.
Yeah. It is. I thought it was brilliant when I saw that. I thought, that's some smart community policing right there.
Yeah. Capitalize on the group being together all at once. But here in Ontario, Doug Ford is also taking some steps to curb and crack down on some illegal immigration social benefits scheming. So he has just announced today that he is shutting down this loophole that allowed people who were here illegally to receive social benefits through Ontario Works and then ODSP, that's Ontario Disability Support Program. So as of this morning, people living in Canada illegally are no longer eligible for those programs. And that also includes people here on student visas, work permits, visitors, and tourists. This new regulation, as I put in this right up here, is simple. Taxpayer-funded social assistance is for the people who are here legally and facing genuine hardship, not for those who have no right to be collecting it, who also perhaps, and obviously if you're here illegally, have never actually paid into this social assistance program. So Ford posted,
this stuns me that people who were tourists were getting social assistance.
It was so bad. It was, and who knows how long. I'd like to file some access to information on this to just find out how long this was ongoing and how much of the public purse was paid out for this illegal scheming and scamming of the systems. But the Ontario Disability Program is repeatedly criticized for, not meeting today's high costs of living and those standards. People with genuine disabilities, are ineligible or not receiving enough to actually make a meaningful change to their financial situation. And then you have people who are here on student visas, work permits, likely expired, right? Because otherwise we wouldn't be calling them illegal. Visitors and tourists who are just capitalizing on the generosity of Canadians, and in this case specifically Ontarians, when the people who are actually living here legally and genuinely need it are left out to dry. It's horrible. But Doug Ford took to X and he said, and I mean, this is like point blank obvious, taxpayer funded social assistance was never meant to support people living in Ontario illegally. As of today, it doesn't anymore. So that it's important too, and I didn't mention it in this article, but because Ontario receives nearly half of all of the immigrants that come into Canada as a whole, and then the vast majority of them congregate in the GTA specifically, so in the Greater Toronto area. So there is a massive strain on social services specifically in the GTA. And I think it's high time that Premier Doug Ford cracked down on this, because the systems are, basically crumbling and collapsing at this point.
I'm going to tell you something horrific. So temporary foreign workers get the CCB, the Canadian Child Benefit.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
And they can receive it for children not living in this country with them. That's crazy. Like, that's crazy. Somebody who is not Canadian can receive CCB for children that are in another country.
It's the same filibuster as the health program.
Yeah.
The IF, the International Fund, Healthcare Fund. I can't remember the acronym off the top of my head, but same thing. Basic healthcare, dental, optometrist, so eye doctor, things that aren't available to retired Canadians who have paid into these systems for their entire working life, do not get the same eligibility as people who are here as asylum claimants. Even when their asylum claim has been rejected, if they appeal it, they're still considered to be eligible. But your grandma, who's worked her whole life and is now experiencing the same cost of living and the same excessive tax burden that the rest of us are faced with, can't afford to go to the eye doctor. Well, too bad for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And those people who with denied asylum claims also get CCB for children. Do we want to talk about, you know what, let's just hit an ad break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll talk about Sean Chen. Where in the world is Sean Chen? I think it's China. And then I think we should get into the Allison inquiry stuff, because that was terrible. I watched it out of the corner of my eye this morning. So let's hit an ad break, and then we'll do that on the other side.
For generations, many Canadians have preserved more than just firearms. They've preserved history, tradition, competition, memories. But under Trudeau, and now Carney, heirlooms, estates, collectibles, and competition firearms now have to be surrendered and destroyed. While violent gun criminals get pass after pass, openly ignoring any legislation, lawful gun owners are trapped in an increasingly unfair legal system. But we can help. Canada's National Firearms Association's Save Firearms program offers the legal pathway to preserve what matters, while we work towards a political solution. Don't let yours be next. Save history. Save heritage. Save firearms. Visit nfa.ca today to learn more.
In Canada, firearms owners like me understand the importance of safe, effective self-defense options. That's why we're proud to have Byrna as a sponsor. Byrna's less lethal launchers are designed to help protect you and your family without taking a life. Byrna offers peace of mind, accessibility, and a practical layer of personal security for Canadians who value safety. Learn more at byrna.ca/rebel. That's BYRNA www.rebel.
Hey folks, do you love a good cup of coffee? Are you, like me, banned for life from visiting Tim Hortons? Well,
No, we're not. No,
Yeah,
not everybody is.
Not everybody.
Just you and me.
But I am. Folks, I have great news. Check it out. This is Rebel News Special Edition Coffee. Rebel News and Resistance Coffee have partnered to bring you something special to wake up to. Resistance Coffee is a family-run Canadian coffee company, unlike Tim Hortons, by the way. And while the big chains wrap themselves in the flag and turn their backs on Canadian workers, Resistance Coffee has been doing the real thing all along, available only at rebelcoffee.ca. A 5-pound bag and bundles qualify for a $9.99 flat rate shipping nationwide. It is worth every penny. Folks, this is great coffee, and this is the coffee to brew. Rebel News.
All right, I'll do a quick ad read here from Rumble Wallet because we hear a lot about crypto, but here is the part that most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you have felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today, everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all of that complexity and makes it simple. You can choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stable coins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me and Rebel News directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. All right. What did we say we were going to talk about next? Oh, yes.
Sean Chen.
Where is Shen?
Yes. Sean Chen, Liberal MP, he recently announced his resignation because he was in such a debilitating car accident that he could no longer attend to his duties in Ottawa, although I think there's some questions about whether or not he has been attending to duties in Ottawa at all over the last 11 years. He posted this to his X account, and he said he suffered a serious motor vehicle accident in late fall 2025 while commuting to Ottawa, which has caused significant health issues that now prevent me from traveling there as frequently as the role requires. After discussing the situation with my family, I've decided that it is best for me to step down as a member of parliament. Okay, put a pin in that. Because it would appear that whatever the debilitating car accident was that required him to step down from his duties in Ottawa, including the 1-hour flight from Toronto to Ottawa. He has been traveling or has traveled at least once to China which is a roughly 15-hour flight, and has been posing in CCP-linked videos there. And there are some questions, although they could quickly be resolved, about whether or not he voted while in China in the House of Commons remotely, which is a serious security risk. You're supposed to be in Canada when you're doing the voting in the House of Commons, at the very least. It sounds like he may actually have not voted in that the C9 vote. I'm still digging into that. There's stories on either side, but what we do know for sure is he looks pretty spry.
Yeah.
While in China, not particularly debilitated at all. And if it was too much, like, look at him, he's just giving her around the airport doing things. But whatever the car accident was that prevented him from flying the 1 hour to Ottawa, it certainly didn't keep the man down. Didn't keep him out of that 30-hour round trip to China where he gallivanted all over the place with his CCP handlers. So there should be a serious CSIS investigation here. Here's my conspiracy theory, which is more of a conspiracy. It's less of a theory than anything, but I think that he was probably advised that he was a security risk at this point to the Liberals, and this is the reason that he stepped down, his little fender bender or whatever it is. That they just leapt on that. I mean, he could have just said, I'm stepping down to spend more time with family, which is always the stupid excuse, right? That's what, oh gosh, I forget his name, Matt Genereux said when he was going to step down from the Conservative Party of Canada. He was going to spend more time with family until he had enough of his family and joined the Liberals, and then didn't step down at all. But I think that they overly complicated their excuse for him to step down after it was determined that he was a security risk. Again, this is just me speculating. And now they're trying to create the backstory here. Look, if you did have a fender bender, fine. I'm not saying that that didn't happen, but I should tell you that I smoked a moose up the road from my house. And once my vehicle was off the road, I came back and finished my workday.
Yeah.
He can't be seriously injured if a 30-hour round trip to China to appear in CCP linked promotional videos was possible. There's just no way. And if you think that there are enough questions here that we don't have answers to yet, and that CSIS and the RCMP should investigate, you can go to whereischen.com, because is he in the country right now? I know that people have visited his constituency office and he ain't there. He's still a Liberal MP right now. So they still have the liability of him hanging around their neck like a millstone. But yeah, I think there's enough here that somebody should investigate. I mean, we used to investigate foreign interference around here, but not so much these days.
Yeah, and that foreign interference, the registry, it exists on paper, just as that whistleblower article we already talked about. All of it exists on paper, but is anyone actually looking? Is there any real enforcement and human oversight happening here? Because I doubt that. But Sheila, it's funny you mentioned the moose thing. I don't know. Do you remember the time I got rear-ended on the way into the office? And then I still went and did the live stream and had a normal work day. Like, to claim that this fender bender was the reason for you having to not partake in your parliamentary duties for a year, right? Like, you would think that if you were in a fender bender that caused such a debilitating health situation or physical impairment, that it wouldn't take you a year to resign after it. It would be, I think, a little bit more instantaneous than waiting a full calendar year before deciding, oh wait, this actually isn't for me.
I love the Liberal apologists though, where they're like, he went there during a break in the House of Commons, so don't ask any questions. He went there for a change of scenery to get some rest and relaxation. And it's like, he went to the CCP and did some promotional videos with them. And I don't know about you, but Ezra has stuck me on some pretty onerous flight schedules sometimes, where it's like, I've been flying for 48 hours. I was on the ground for 6 hours, and I've slept in airports for like 4 days of my life. And there's nothing relaxing about that. Like, I don't know what's relaxing about 15 hours on a flight. Like, say you have, let's even like give him the benefit of the doubt. You had a car accident, maybe you have whiplash, whatever. There's nothing like an uncomfortable airline seat for 15 hours to help with your whiplash or your back injury or whatever it is. Like, give me a break. Just give me a break. No one believes this.
I guess if you're flying first class, it's not so bad, but
I guess if
otherwise
you're in an Air
you're pretty
Canada
cooped
pod.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're pretty cooped up in there to be on a 15-hour flight with some sort of spinal, neck, other injury. Who knows what he actually suffered in a fender bender. But yeah, the whole thing smells pretty fishy. That's for sure.
Do you know what? And frankly, tell it to some of the MPs who actually have disabilities. Like there was a conservative MP who was a quadriplegic. He found a way to get to Ottawa to do his job.
And there was was it Chandra, who's the public safety? She was the critic. She just had a baby. And anyway, she just posted on X and on her social that she just had a baby. What about all the ones who just have babies and, are in the throes of nursing or newborn life, and they're still able to attend to their mandate and get their work done and do their job? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it was conservative MP.
Is it
Stephen Fletcher was quadriplegic. He went to work.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, Sean Chen. Get well
Where
soon.
Where is Chen?
Where is Chen?
Where is he?
Where is he? Where is he right now? Where is he?
We need that theme song. Where in the world is not Carmen Sandiego, but Sean Chen.
Sean Chen.
All right, moving along, we have the Allison inquiry. So there was an update again today ahead of the actual inquiry, which will start and kick off on September 8th in Ottawa. So we're just a couple weeks out, actually. And spoiler alert, I do have an upcoming interview with Dean, Conservative MP Dean Allison. And so stay tuned for that early next week, I would say. But the update this morning, and I haven't watched all of these clips, but I hope this one of Dean speaking on the upcoming hearings was when he got pretty teary speaking about a staffer who is no longer with us and has sadly succumbed to his post-vaccination injuries. And so his sister will be testifying on his behalf. And so let's have a listen to this clip from Dean himself. And I hope it's on this specific topic.
Vaccine-injured Canadians have told us they feel abandoned. Our job is to listen. And that's exactly what we intend to do. When these hearings begin in September, Canadians will hear directly from vaccine-injured individuals. They will also hear from some individuals who will provide some important context to help us better understand what these Canadians have experienced. Canadians will hear about the Vaccine Injury Support Program, the experience of people that have attempted to navigate it. More than 1,000 Canadians have already raised their hands and said, I want my story heard. We may only have time to hear 50 of them during these hearings, but every one of those 1,000 voices matter. Their experience matters, their families matter, and their stories matter. Canadians should never be afraid to tell their stories, and their government should never be afraid to listen. If you or someone you know has a story, speak up, contact your MP, ask them to participate in the Allison Inquiry September 8th to 11th in Ottawa. Watch it, share it, encourage others to listen. Their stories matter, their lives matter, and they deserve to be heard.
Yeah, I don't know. So I have the timestamp here of when he mentions that. It's about 1:56, and I'll just share the link because I think it would be really powerful just to show even, that 30, 45 seconds of him talking about this. Because we have to recognize that the vaccine injury, it didn't matter who you were or where you were from. It has touched and affected the lives of everyone, whether you yourself have been injured or you know someone who has been injured or you have a family member. And Mr. Allison breaks it down and says, these are parliamentarians, these are their staffers, these are MPs, MPPs. Everyone from every walk of life has been somewhere, somehow down the line affected by this. And if we could just queue up about 1:55 mark of that.
In Alberta, a UCP MLA came out and said he was vaccine injured. Shane Getson. He said he was vaccine injured. And so he's against forced vaccination. And he's been very upfront about that. So this has affected everybody. Lise has been very open about her vaccine injury. And And I don't begrudge people who took the vaccine for any numerous reasons, whether it was inoculation against unemployment or so that you could go see your kids play sports, or, the point is you should never have been faced with that choice. And you should have been given all the information, and nobody was. Sorry, I'll be quiet. We have that clip.
Yeah, the informed consent element that was just completely skirted and disavowed is a massive component about all of this. So the clip actually starts, I think, about 1:40 of that whole video. 1:40.
Who have never come forward. These are not statistics. They are mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, friends and neighbors. They are MPs, MP staff, and senators. They are in the media. They are doctors. They are literally in every walk of life. We're also going to hear from Crystal, the sister of Scott Gorey. Scott was well known here in Parliament Hill, where he served as a dedicated staff member to several members of Parliament. Sadly, Scott's family said goodbye to him in July. He leaves behind his wife and 2 young children. Scott passed away from myocarditis. Before he died, Scott told his sister that he wanted his story to be told. He wanted people to know what he had experienced and what he and his family had gone through. Scott is no longer here to tell that story, so his sister Crystal will honor her brother's request and tell it for him. That is what these hearings are about. Giving a voice to people who have asked to be heard.
How many people, like that case, are not here any longer to tell the story? When I was at the National Citizens Inquiry, I interviewed a woman who was navigating the then bloated bureaucracy of the Vaccine Injury Support Program, which has now been taken over by the Public Health Agency of Canada and renamed, and is still the same old bloated bureaucracy, impossible to navigate, impossible to have your injury recognized or be compensated as you were promised fair and timely support if you suffered a rare but debilitating vaccine injury. And she told me at that time that one of the other vaccine injured women that she was speaking with in their support groups, because remember, everything was being suppressed and censored and silenced in 2021 and 2022. And so people had to navigate the censorious algorithms of Facebook and other social media platforms. And so she had connected with other vaccine injured people. And one woman in particular sought aid because her injury was so debilitating and devastating that she couldn't stand or fathom living another day. And we will never hear from those people. We will never hear those stories. So I'm glad that Scott has his sister there to speak on his behalf. But we will never know the true toll and the true numbers behind this. And that was really driven home by some of what Dr. Charles Hoff said during today's press release.
Just before we move on to the Charles Hoff clip, this staffer, Scott, Dean Allison says, was well known on Parliament Hill. Longtime staffer, worked for a lot of MPs. That means the Liberals knew him too. And the Liberals knew what happened to him. And yet the Liberals knew that somebody that they knew personally was suffering from a vaccine injury that ultimately took his life. And yet those ghouls were still out in the public saying, this is safe, take it. This is safe, take it. Imagine what it was like for Scott and his family to hear that people who knew him and people who knew what had happened to them, or to them really, because it didn't just happen to Scott, it happened to his entire family. People who knew what happened to him were still going out front and lying to the Canadian public. Imagine the effect that it had on the family.
And are still dismissing the totality of this inquiry.
Yeah.
I don't think there is any Liberal MPs thus far who have said that they will attend.
Although Dean is inviting them.
Oh,
He's inviting MPs who have constituents who are testifying, even Conservative MPs. I know a lot of Conservative MPs are going. I believe Arnold Viersen is going. but he is inviting them. He's saying like, hey, so-and-so, your constituent, this person is testifying. Will you come listen to them about what you did to them? And I imagine there won't be any.
Well, we'll see September 8th to 11th. But this morning during the presser, British Columbia family physician, Dr. Charles Hoff, who's no stranger to Rebel News. We've interviewed him many of times, especially on the way that he was treated during the pandemic. Here's what he had to say about how we'll never, just reinforcing that stance that we will never know the true scale or the true toll that this had on people, because the vaccine injury reports, they were never even collected. They were dismissed as being coincidental from the onset.
When the vaccine rollout began, I tried to alert my colleagues in the area to serious safety signals and was reprimanded by the authorities and told that I was not allowed to say anything negative about the vaccines. And so when I started to see very serious side effects in my own patients, within 3 months of the onset of the vaccine rollout, I had one patient who died suddenly after his shot. I had 3 people who were clearly going to be permanently disabled and a number of others who were seriously injured. So I sent an open letter to the British Columbia Public Health Officer, Dr. Bonnie Henry, to inform her of these safety signals. Her response was to refer this to her top vaccine safety specialist, Dr. Monica Naus, who assured me without any investigation of any of my patients that these were all coincidences. So I said, I said to her, I've been family doctor to these people for 28 years. I know them very well, and there is no other medical explanation for these terrible, disabling symptoms that they have. She insisted that they were all coincidences and told me to just submit vaccine injury reports. So I started submitting the reports, and ultimately I submitted 14 in total, and when every single one was denied as a coincidence by public health, I gave up. To this day, I have 36 vaccine-injured patients. This is just the COVID vaccines I'm talking about in my practice, and I have a small one-man practice of approximately 1,100 people.
36 out of 1,100 people. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, and we also know that besides their vaccine injury reports not being taken seriously by officials, many doctors were scared to take vaccine reports and then submit them because they would end up being treated like Dr. Hoff.
Yeah, and he goes on, he details that later on in the presser. He says exactly that. And don't forget, the likes of BC's top doc, Bonnie Henry, was telling people to use glory holes. I mean, this was the advice they were giving you at the time when they're simultaneously promoting endlessly the safe and effective marketing mantra, disregarding, dismissing, and essentially gaslighting doctors who were trying to submit safety signal reports. They were telling you, well, the best way to engage in your activities is to use glory holes for safer sex during the pandemic. I mean, if this is the state of public health in this country, I think we need to take a good look at it and the funding that they receive for their ridiculous mandates. I don't know if this next clip is YouTube safe, so we may have to, I think it's worth showing, but we may have to just clip this one out of things. I think it's okay, but I haven't watched the full one.
I pointed out in my letter to Dr. Bonnie Henry that at that point, which was 15 months into the pandemic, we had not had one single person in our town needing any health care for COVID at all. And as soon as the vaccine rollout started, then the real problem, the real casualties emerged. And I pointed out to her that it was clear to me that the COVID injections were more dangerous than COVID. So, of course, the response of the authorities is, well, yes, it's unfortunate if a few people get hurt, but But the vaccines are saving millions of lives. They are keeping people safe. So one needs to keep in mind that in the first year of the pandemic, there was absolutely no increase in the number of people dying in Canada. If we look at all-cause mortality in the first year of the pandemic, it was no different than what we would expect. The increase in all-cause mortality started after the vaccine rollout. In the United States, they have now had approximately 1 million excess, these are non-COVID excess deaths since the vaccine rollout. So this idea that the vaccines have saved millions of lives is absurd.
And that doesn't take into account the unborn.
Right. And so many, again, that the data has just been skewed from the onset. And the most disheartening part for me is that in May of 2021, I featured the story of Dr. Patrick Phillips, an Ontario rural family physician who also worked in his local ER emergency room department. And he said these exact same things. And for the crime of being an honest, ethical medical physician, he has been stripped of his license. He is no longer able to practice medicine in a province with a family doctor shortage. Still to this day, 2025, 2026, he is no longer practicing medicine because his regulator, the CPSO, came after him for supposed misinformation and inappropriate conduct, essentially. And so that's the warning to doctors. Speak out, and this is your fate. And so many others like him who have come forward, I've heard from them. They shut up and they put up and they hope that they can continue practicing medicine in a way that tries to be ethical in a post-COVID world. But if this had have received the attention that it needed in 2021, we may not need the Allison inquiry in 2026.
Absolutely. Okay. We're already over time. If anybody has chats, get them in right now, and let's hit the double dose of cringe. I could leave on a happy note.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. First one, Mark Carney. Who says he has a great afternoon berry picking at in Chicoutimi last week. I'm not even going to attempt to. Why is Lyndon calling me when I'm on TV? Anyways, he had a great afternoon berry picking in Chicoutimi last week. Of course, it had to be last week because this week he's in Italy. So let's watch him.
Ah! Oui, c'est cool, hein? Premier ministre?
Wow.
Oui. I don't even have one of those.
C'est un fruit bleu, mais il est rouge avant de devenir bleu.
Oui, oui, oui. OK, Daniel. Daniel, bien, bien.
La camerise réunie, là?
Oh, merci beaucoup. Pour moi, Chicoutimi-Lafière, c'est la plus belle circonscription fédérale. C'est bon?
C'est super bon.
What is it that the peasants do with those purple things that are coming off the trees? Like it just feels like he's not ever been to a place that normal people might go to. It's very weird.
And I mean, okay, sure, you do a fluffy, feel good, try to fit in with the normal people video. But now I would say is definitely not the time. The economy's tanking. We're facing the worst tariff threats that we've had thus far in the supposed negotiations, which we know are not really negotiations. And he's the prime minister who has sat the least in the House, I think, in Canada's history. And this is his priority.
Yeah,
so much for being elbows up.
Unless he's teaching us how to forage for berries in this economy.
Which we will apparently need to know how to do.
By 2040, apparently we will need to know how to forage and subsistence hunt I'll be fine, but I'm worried about the rest of you people. But yeah, I would prefer a video from the Prime Minister with a survivalist saying, eat this berry, don't eat this berry. I think that would be a lot more helpful to Canadians than this stupid video.
Yeah, or reassurance that, hey, I'm in negotiations with Donald Trump and I'm fighting for you, Canada, to get us the best deal. And I'm going to lower the cost of living and decrease your increasing tax burden. I mean, just
Yeah.
so out of touch.
While he's off in Italy.
And yeah, then jet sets off to Italy for more
Yeah.
berry enjoying goodness. I imagine he's
Right.
drinking lots of wine while he's there.
Must be nice.
Oh,
Okay.
this woman.
This super cringe. Matrix co-director Lily Wachowski, who, I mean, just feast your eyes, friends. I think she's, no, I almost used the wrong pronoun. This person is part of a like a duo, I believe, if I know my like trans pop culture lore properly, and I really don't. I rely on these for these things, but I think it's this person and a twin to this person have both decided to trans themselves.
Okay.
Anyways, goes by Lily Wachowski, says nobody in Hollywood wants to finance his new $10 million thriller called The Hunted because of its trans representation. People like it. Do they?
Maybe they don't.
Maybe that's the thing, is they just don't. People like it, but they really don't want to make it because it's got wall-to-wall trans cast. Well, maybe start there. I have to get creative and figure out different ways that I can get in front of people. Do you? This is a script that was extremely important for me to write. Okay, but you need to make, like, you're in business of making movies, and the business of making movie requires you to make things that people want to watch that don't make them like uncomfortable the whole time. It was a response to what is happening in the world for trans people, and it gave me a hugely cathartic receptacle to dump all of my anger and rage and frustration is.
That's it. That is it.
Yeah,
that is why no one wants your movie.
Go to therapy. Don't take us along with you to your therapy session and call it a movie that we have to pay to see. Don't do that to us. We don't want that. We're fine.
Also, it's called The Hunted. So I'm only guessing at this point what
who's going to be hunted,
could be.
Who's going to be the bad guys. Guess what? It's going to be heterosexual white males who are the bad guys. I think you're going to be hunting all the trans people, as if you don't have other things to do, like working, taking care of your wives and children. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your rage project.
Maybe it's time for the Matrix director to step out of his own Matrix and have some reality.
Yeah.
A cathartic receptacle
for
to dump
rage.
All of my rage, anger, and frustration into. I mean,
listen, brother, go scream at a tree.
There you go.
Don't make me go along with you.
Yeah, no one's here for it.
No, nobody wants this. Who told, like, that's the thing, is they're in such a bubble that they think everybody wants their bizarro passion project, and nobody does. This is why there's this sort of return to less gross, less hedonistic things, even in music. You look at Ella Langley, she's at the top of the charts. Why? Because she's got a wholesome kind of look about her. Her hair, her makeup is very wholesome. Her songs are not gross and perverty, and like there's a shift in the culture that is leaving this stuff behind. And I think that's for the betterment of society. I believe we've had about exactly enough.
How do you even find a wall-to-wall trans cast? I mean, imagine the accommodations that are going to be needed for that to even try to get off the ground. It just sounds like a complete recipe for disaster.
Bathroom free-for-all on the set. And I believe that everybody has had it quite up to here with trans rage. Like, we're not going to pay to see a movie about trans rage,
because
we can read about trans rage just about every day in the news.
He may be smiling in this photo, but judging by those eyes,
that?
there's a lot of rage in there.
Is that a smile? It feels like a sinister
talks.
sneer.
Yeah, maybe some Botox happening in there.
Ugh.
But anyway, there you have it.
Great.
Maybe you're going to get a new $10 million thriller, The Hunted.
Yeah.
That's been a cathartic receptacle for this trans
hunting
woman.
for viewers of that movie if it ever gets made.
Yeah, they will be. They'll be coming in at a deficit for sure. I mean,
Yep.
Anyway, okay. Well, that's it for today. Happy Thursday, everyone. TGIF tomorrow. Yay, Friday.
Yeah.
And stay tuned. Come back for more tomorrow from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern. I think it'll be someone other than the usual suspects.
Yes,
but
I think David and Drea are both busy tomorrow. So when somebody else can't do something, I believe it's always me. So it's probably going to be me.
You'll see new faces.
Yeah, somebody
on
else
the Friday
anyway.
host. Yeah, so come back at that time for more. Thanks everybody behind the scenes, and for you, Sheila, for always being in there to fill in and to host and keep the live stream chugging along. It's much appreciated. All right, so come back tomorrow for more, and until that time, stay sane and question everything.
So I've read through the details and the parameters of this inquiry, and my understanding is there's really no teeth to it. At most, you can maybe suggest questions to Parliament. I'm wondering, are you not then just asking these injured Canadians to re-traumatize themselves without any real result or accountability? Like, what are you intending to get out of this initiative?
Sure. First, thanks for coming. We appreciate having CTV in the room. I think one of the biggest challenges right now is that people have not felt they have permission to actually talk about this. So how do you move forward if no one can talk about it? Dr. Huff talked a bit about how people show up and doctors are afraid to actually, diagnose or find help. So we realized by raising awareness, we're hoping to put pressure on the government through the fact that they realize they're already relooking at the VIS program. Something else is going to come out. We also understood that there was like 2/3 of that money in the original program went to overhead. So we hope they'll listen to what the stories and the frustrations and concerns are. So at the end of the day, they'll get a chance to have a better program. And once again, I think, for a lot of these individuals, as Sean has mentioned, there's a lot of trauma. And so at the end of the day, we want the healing to start by people just feeling like they're being heard. And as I said, it's a very narrow focus, as you mentioned, because I don't have the resources of government. But by all means, I think it's a great start. And we really hope that this will start the healing process and the government will take notice and they'll do a better job with the next iteration of the program.